welcome back to the Launch Point Leader podcast. My name's Lori.
And this is Beau.
We are so excited to be back today just to share something that you guys have written in, just sharing about where you're at in your leadership journey. So let's get right into it.
Dive in, Lori. Let's go.
So today it says, Dear Launch Point, I'm currently leading a team of 30 people. This is not necessarily a new role, as I've been doing it for the past 4 years. Lately, though, I've noticed a pattern in my leadership approach. I find myself constantly stepping in to fix issues and solve problems for my team. While my intentions are good, it feels like in the moment I'm making things run smoothly, but now I'm starting to question whether this approach is actually hurting my team. In theory, I know the importance of empowering my team to take ownership of their work and develop their own problem-solving skills. However, in practice, I'm struggling to find the right balance between providing support and allowing them the space to learn from their mistakes and grow. It's frustrating to feel like they can't succeed without me, and sometimes I don't finish my own responsibilities because of trying to help them with theirs. So what I want to know is, how can I encourage them to take the initiative and tackle their own challenges while still acting as the leader and taking ownership for the outcomes? If at the end of the day it all falls back on me, I don't want any mistakes to reflect badly on my leadership. It's starting to feel like I can't keep up with the growth, and I'm tired of the way things are heading it. Any insights would mean a lot. Thanks. Frustrated fixer.
I hit on a couple of points that I would recommend. The first is, if you're having to step in and fix things, it absolutely is ultimately hurting the growth of your team. So you're correct. If you're having to step in and fix things, your team needs something different from you then, unless your job is to be the fixer. Your team needs you to lead them in a different way if you're having to continue to step in and fix the same things over and over again. When you think about fixing, I'd encourage you to think about not just that F, but the other F of fixing it and future-proofing it. Don't just fix it for today. Don't just fix it so it can happen again tomorrow. Fix it and then figure out how to future-proof it with systems or with teaching, training, whatever it might be. Your team needs something different than you just stepping in. Last thing I would say would be, the other thing that they need that is different is, if you have the expectation that you shouldn't have to step in to fix it, do they have that expectation? Do they fully understand what their role actually is? Because if they do, then I think we've talked about this idea of ESRC before, setting expectations, giving them the skills and the resources they need, and then the consequences to go do it. So I think I would just ask that question: are the expectations really clear? Do they have the systems and the training that they need to go do it? And then you as the leader need to figure out the behaviors that will help that and that will harm that. And then, like, you've got a job to do as well, and it's not stepping in to fix it anymore. No. Easier said than done.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you walk in and something's on fire, literally, or hopefully figuratively. It's like, I've got to go do this. Great. But that's where that second F that I talked about comes in. It's like, fine, if you need to go fix it because it's detrimental to the team, to your customers, whatever, then go do that. But you're actually not being a leader unless you figure out how to prevent it in the future. And that's the job of a leader, not just stepping in to be a firefighter.
Whenever this concept comes up, I always go back to that story when I think I was less than a year in like my leadership journey working for you, and somebody called with a problem, and I always was the one to, like, whether I was in the business or not, I would stop what I was doing and go fix it. And you said, "Hey, let me know how you work it out. Thanks so much for letting me know," and hang up. And they probably could hear you saying this. It was probably very weird on their end, but I was like, "Thank you for letting me know. Let me know how it goes." And I'm like, I don't even know the rest of the meeting going on, like, thinking, like, panicking. And then meeting ends, I expect, like, a million texts, and it was just the solution was there. And, I wish I could say that that was the last time it happened and it was all perfect after that and I didn't step in. But it is something even 5, 6 years later, I'm still thinking back on and going, "Hey," I share that with people a lot, like, I didn't need to be the one to fix it, and now looking back, it's a super simple issue, like, why was I the one doing that in the first place? But it felt like such instinct in the moment, and so I think that comes up. But you talk about, as a leader, fixing it and future proofing it. What's a good tangible maybe example or like how do I start future proofing something? Say that example, that problem. How would I future proof it?
You've got to pay the price of time and effort at some point to future proof it.
Yeah,
So I think it can be an in the moment. It can be a pointing back to what you already have in place that wasn't followed or wasn't done correctly that could prevent that from happening. If you don't have that, then I think I would do something like a basically an idea dump, a whiteboard session where you go,
yeah,
okay, what are the only reasons that that could happen?
right.
And what are the things that I can put in place to make sure that that either does happen if I want it to continue or that it
Yeah.
prevents it from happening if it's something I want to
Mhm.
stop. And I think that's just tactically, it just
Yeah,
takes time.
it
It
does.
takes time out of the whirlwind of the business.
Mhm.
It takes more time in this idea, this cerebral state that a
Yeah.
leader has to go to sometimes and actually do
Mhm.
thinking work instead of hands and feet work. And you're gonna have to do that at some point if you wanna move your team from being Mr. or Miss Fix It
Right.
over to being self-sustaining.
Yeah, that's good, and I think a important part of that because there's nothing more it's just such a powerful resource, just getting all your thoughts on paper, on a whiteboard, on a sticky note, whatever it might be, and then going, "Look at all this I need to fix." If you're someone that's a frustrated fixer, it's gonna feel a little overwhelming and maybe where to start, but I think the important thing is you've gotta pick 1 or 2 things and say, "For this next period, 2 weeks, a month, I wanna stop stepping in for these 2 things," and then you okay, they know the expectations, there you go, you kinda take it step by step with that because 'cause you're gonna have to take it in bite-sized pieces in a
You
sense.
will.
You're not gonna stop fixing everything overnight,
Right, you won't, but
but
I think you've got to spend enough time to boil down the big issue into what are just the few things that cause that issue to happen. So if it's managing productivity in your company, or if it's managing, food costs, or if it's managing sales growth, or whatever it might be, there's only so many things that impact that, either positively or negatively. And then there's only so many things that help control that so that you get the outcome you want. And honestly, if you do that work as a leader and your team drops the ball, something happens, mistakes happen, we don't hit the goal, you have to step in again. You're not just pointing them to like a personal behavior. It's like, well, that's just Lori and that's how she leads, right? No, you're pointing them back to, instead of them being able to think emotionally, you're helping, you've created something where they don't have to think emotionally, they can think strategically and go, "Okay, think backwards, it was actually boom, that's the link that was missing, and it's there, so let's refresh ourselves on it, let's go back to it," and it makes them feel like they can do it, and it takes the emotion out of it, if that makes sense there, I
yeah,
think. Okay.
absolutely, I think that's really good, and kinda goes into my next point of maybe you have set the expectation unintentionally. It sounds like that you're going to step in and fix it because that's who you are as a person. How do you fix that expectation? How do you change that so that they can start making these changes?
I think you have to tell your team. I really think you have to be
Yeah.
upfront and honest with your
Yeah.
team and say, "Hey, listen, I've been doing this, and I'm actually hurting you and the business
Yeah.
with me doing this. And this is actually the job that you signed up for and that
Right.
I'm supposed to be helping you do well.
Right.
And so you're going to see some behaviors that are a little bit different from me than what you're used to, and they look like this. And the reason is not because I'm too good to do this now. It's because if I continue to do it, I'm actually not helping you develop as a leader, develop as a person, develop in this area of the business. And so I just need to let you know things are going
Yeah.
to look a little bit different, and this is why. But I think at the end of it, you're going to be a lot happier with being able to do it on your own and actually grow than you would if I'm just swooping in to help every time.
That's awesome. And I think it's great that it's so simple. It sounds almost too simple to be the right answer, right? But it is just
Yeah.
that ownership of you've just got to tell them.
You do, you have to tell them, and then you have to be upfront with them about, there might be a season, though, that once you've done kind of that whiteboard work, that cerebral work of figuring out the things that control the outcomes, that there might be a period of time that you say, okay, for the next 2-3 weeks or 2-3 days, whatever, I'm going to be working like side by side with you intentionally to help you learn how to think and execute with these new things. After that, I'm gonna distance a little bit. I'm still gonna be watching what's going on. I'm still gonna be looking at your results, and I'm gonna be checking in with you, but then, like, I'm handing you the reins at this point, and I need for you to use these next 2 weeks to really, really learn and capture it so you can do it when the reins are yours to handle. Nope. It does sound easy, it sounds simple. I can promise you the execution of it is not
Yeah,
simple
I
because
think
the whirlwind is
easy is
still
not the right
happening.
word. I think, uncomplicated, like, don't overcomplicate it in
Exactly.
trying to fix it and, like, reinventing some huge, like, I've gotta trick them into now doing this, right? I think
That's
is my
right.
concept with that, but I think it's good that it's easy to put into place,
Yeah.
hard in practice.
It is. It just takes time,
Yeah,
right? It just takes time and intentionality, and I think that as a leader, frustrated fixer is gonna have to be super intentional to actually go do that and to stop fixing for a little bit and to really start future proofing so that you don't have to fix nearly as much. So intentionality really comes into play with that. So do the work, do the exercise. Don't just think it's gonna happen unless you actually make it happen, and it's gonna have to be a change in behavior for you as a leader first, and then your team will come along.
that's good. That idea of future proofing, I really love.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Frustrated Fixer, for writing in. I hope you
Yes.
got some good, tangible things that you can walk away with today. And if anyone else listening has anything they would like to share, just a place they are in their leadership journey, we would love to give some insight and just share that alongside you. You can write us in at advice@launchpointleader.com.
And really,
Yeah.
before we
Ooh.
close, please really do write us with specifics. If there's something that Lori and I have said
Yeah.
that's like, okay, that sounds good, but practically, like,
Right.
how do you step by step
What does it
this thing
mean?
out? Contact us. Let us know, and we can help work with you through that
Mhm.
because we don't want this to be theoretical.
Right.
We want it to be practical and
Mhm.
impactful for your business. So take your advice, write us.
Take the advice@launchpointleader.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.
Thanks.